Hey, I'm Chef Troy Ellis, and welcome to my kitchen. Today, we're going to do a classic dish, shrimp and grits. But before we get started, let me describe my style a little bit. If you ask myself or anyone who had my food before, they would say probably kicked up comfort food. The food that your grandmothers and your mothers made that you loved, added with a twist just to take it up to the next level. So today, we're going to make shrimp and grits Chef Troy's way. First, we're going to use corn polenta instead of white hominy grits. Second, we're going to take a nice spice blend of smoked paprika, cumin, salt and pepper to make our shrimp sing. And third, we're going to make a sweet, spicy, and tangy tomato jam with Roma tomatoes, habanero peppers, a little sugar. It's going to be great. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to get started with our grits. So right now we have our corn polenta. As you can see, it's a bright yellow color. It's got a nice coarse texture. We got a salted water back here. You always want to salt your water whatever you're cooking it because it adds flavor. So what we want to do with our whisk here is we're going to slowly pour our grits into a water in a nice stream. And basically because we do that because we don't want any lumps. We want a nice creamy consistency to our grits. Now as you can see, we do a nice slow stream and we're whisking as they're going just so we don't get no lumps. And basically what we want to do is bring this up to a boil. And once it comes up to the boil, we'll turn it down and let it simmer and let the polenta cook. So we got our polenta on, it's boiling. We're going to turn it down a little bit, medium-low heat, and put our lid on it. And what we're going to do is we're just going to constantly check on it just to make sure it's not sticking to the bottom of our pan, make sure that it's not burning or anything like that, and make sure we have no lumps. So right now it's still going. Again, I'm going to go back and check just to give it a quick whisk and make sure it's all nice and incorporated here. It's down, and we're just going to let it go. Next, we're going to work on our tomato jam. Okay, so now we're working on our tomato jam. First, we need to start with our tomatoes. I like Roma tomatoes. They have a natural sweetness. It's used in a lot of Italian cooking. I think it's a great cooking tomato. Second, we have some fresh ginger that I minced here, some fresh shallots, some salt, some pepper, a little red wine vinegar, and finally our habanero pepper. We're going to slice it in half, remove the seeds, and then put that in there, and it's going to add a nice spice kick to our jam. So first thing, we have our olive oil on the pot. We're going to sweat out our shallots, basically making translucent or clear. So as our shallots, as you can see, they're starting to sweat, starting to get translucent. While that's happening, we can check on our polenta here. Just make sure that it's still nice and creamy and cooking nicely and not burning. Give it a quick whisk. One thing you don't want to do with polenta is you don't want to over mix it or over whisk it, because what will happen, it'll break and it'll become very loose and very liquidy. So we don't want to do that. We just want to make sure it's still coming together nicely and cooking properly. Now our shallots are still sweating. Now that our shallots are still sweating, we have our Roma tomatoes. We're going to take, this is 2 Roma tomatoes that we're going to use because we're not going to use a lot of the jam, but the recipe for all this stuff is going to be on my blog, so don't worry about it if you don't catch the measurements. So we're going to add our Roma tomatoes. Turn up a fire a little bit just to get a little more heat in here. Get one of our wooden spoons just to get it all together. This jam is quite simple because all it is putting everything in one pan or a pot and just letting it go. So you hear the onions and the olive oil and the tomatoes coming together nicely. So next we're going to add our ginger. Ginger's going to add a nice sweet and spicy kick to it. I love ginger in a lot of dishes. It's not on the forefront, but it adds a nice depth of flavor to anything. Let that keep sweating out. Adjust our heat. While we're waiting on that to sweat out, we have our habanero pepper. What we're going to do is take it, half it, and see these seeds? These seeds are the hot part. This is what makes it spicy. So what we want to do is remove the seeds. We want the jam to have a little kick to it, but we don't want it to burn people's mouths. So as I clean out the seeds, take them out. We're going to leave it, set that aside. We have some red wine vinegar here. It's going to give it a little acid, a little tang. I'm going to pour some into our jam. And finally, and last but not least, we're going to get some sugar. Probably about a tablespoon and a half. We want this to have a little sweetness to it. And now we just want to mix it up. Get all the ingredients incorporated. You can smell the ginger, you can smell the red wine vinegar. Smelling delicious right now. It's going to be great on top of our shrimp. As you can see, it's nicely coming together. This is going to reduce. The liquid that's in there now is going to evaporate, and you're going to have a nice jam, a nice consistency that's going to go very nicely on your shrimp. Now, we want to take our 2 habanero halves that we made, and we're going to add them into our pot. And we're just going to let this go. We're just going to let this steep. We're going to check on our polenta real quick just to make sure that's still doing well. And we're just going to let this sit here and steep. And basically let the flavors from the habanero, the spice from the habanero, go into our jam. Next, we're going to get to our shrimp. Now that we got our polenta and our jam going, it's time to get our shrimp. So we have some beautiful wild-caught shrimp here. You can get this at any seafood market or your regular grocery store that we've peeled and deveined. Deveining means basically taking out the intestinal lining of the shrimp. And here we have our spice mixture. You have salt, pepper, cumin, and smoked paprika. So first, we're going to take a little of our salt and just season our shrimp. Salt is the engine of flavor. Without salt, your food really will have no life. Next, a little fresh ground black pepper. Then we're going to take a little bit, take a half a teaspoon of our smoked paprika here and sprinkle it over our shrimp. You don't need a lot of these spices because they pack a punch. They're very delicious, but you don't want to overspice your food. And then we'll do the same thing with a cumin. And now what I like to do is then take my hands and just get in here and just make sure that the spices and the salt and the pepper and the smoked paprika and the cumin all get incorporated on the shrimp. You don't want to be too rough with your shrimp. You just want to make sure that they get the nice spices on there. The smoked paprika is really hitting my nose right now. The smoky flavor is just delicious. So now we have our shrimp nice and seasoned, as you can see. I'm going to wash my hands real quick and then we're going to put them in the pan. Now that we have our shrimp seasoned, I'm going to go ahead and put them in a hot pan with some olive oil. You can hear the sizzle when the shrimp hit the pan. Quick shake as our shrimp are on. Now that our shrimp are in the pan, I'm going to come back, I'm going to clean up, come back, check on our jam, check on our polenta, chop up herbs, and then we'll be ready to put this all together. Now that we got our shrimp on, our jam is on, and our polenta is almost cooking, I want to go back to our polenta real quick. I want to add about 4 tablespoons of butter to our polenta. Just add a little creaminess and that butter flavor that we know traditionally come from grits. So I got some butter here. I'm just going to add it to our polenta and just whisk it in. As you can see, our polenta is nice and creamy. All right. Now we're going to add a little salt and pepper to our polenta. And then we're going to check on our shrimp. As you can shrimp, I see our shrimp are almost done. So now, what we want to do is add our fresh herbs to our shrimp. So we got a green onion here. What I'm gonna do is add this to our shrimp along with this fresh parsley here. So I'm just gonna get a quick chop on it. Okay, so now you have a green onion chop. We're gonna add that to our shrimp. And then we have a little parsley here. We're just going to do a rough chop on our parsley. I'm going to add our parsley. And a little bit of fresh garlic. And all we want to do with that now is give it a quick toss. And all you're going to do is just toss this around our shrimp and our herbs and our garlic. As you can see, our shrimp are pretty much cooked now. You just want to add this last minute. Add a little extra flavor. Turn it down a little because you don't want to burn your garlic. All right, so we'll let that go for a little bit, 2-3 more minutes, and they'll be ready to go. Our jam is pretty much good to go right now. Our grits are good. Our polenta, excuse me, even got me confused. What we want to do now with our polenta is add a little heavy cream. Heavy cream, excuse me. Not a lot, just a little bit. Just to make it nice and creamy. And now we have a beautiful, beautiful colored polenta here. Salt, pepper, butter, and a little cream. I think we're almost ready to go to put it all together. All right, so we've got our polenta done, our jam is done, and now our shrimp are done. So it's now to put this all together on our plate. So I got our plate here. We put a nice bed of our polenta right in the center here. We'll take some of our shrimp with the herbs and the garlic and the spice mixture, and then a little of our tomato jam. And there you have it, shrimp and grits, Chef Troy's way, with the corn polenta here, a shrimp with the smoked paprika, cumin, salt, and pepper, and a tomato jam that's sweet, spicy, and tangy. So thank you guys for joining me today. You can find this recipe and all my recipes on my blog at troystaste.blogspot.com. You can also contact me on my website, which is www.troystaste.com. See you guys next time when we put a new twist on a classic dish. See you later.